Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship and looked at the stars through the main window. The cargo vessel New Horizon moved slowly through the dark space of the nebula sector. This was dangerous territory where few ships dared to travel alone. Jake knew this, but he had his reasons for being here. His ship looked like any other cargo vessel that carried supplies between the colonies. The hull was painted in standard gray colors and showed signs of wear from many long journeys. Nothing about the New Horizon suggested it was anything special. That was exactly what Jake wanted everyone to think. Lisa Wang sat at her station checking the navigation systems. She had been working with Jake for 3 years and trusted his judgment completely. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panels as she monitored their course through the dangerous region of space. Pete Johnson was in the engine room making sure everything ran smoothly. He was the best engineer Jake had ever worked with and could fix almost anything. The cargo hold behind them was filled with medical supplies that were badly needed at the outer colonies. At least, that part of their mission was real. The nebula sector was known throughout this part of the galaxy as hunting ground for pirates and raiders. Many species avoided it completely, but some had no choice but to pass through. Trade routes went through this area because it was the fastest way to reach the outer systems where new colonies were being built. Jake had studied the reports about attacks in this sector for months. The same group of alien raiders kept appearing in the intelligence files. They called themselves the Korthax, and they were known for being extremely violent. Unlike other pirates who just wanted cargo, the Korthax took prisoners to sell as slaves. The alien slavers had been growing bolder in recent months. They had attacked 17 human ships in the past year and taken hundreds of prisoners. The attacks followed the same pattern each time. The Korthax would surround a lone vessel and demand surrender. Any ship that tried to fight back was destroyed completely. Commander Vextar led the Korthax raiding fleet from his flagship. He was known throughout the criminal networks as someone who showed no mercy to his enemies. His intelligence network had told him that humans were a newly discovered species that had weak technology and no real military power. The reports about humans came from raids on frontier colonies where the Korthax had encountered farmers and miners. These civilians had simple weapons and no training for combat. Based on these encounters, the aliens believed that all humans were equally weak and easy to defeat. Vextar commanded a fleet of 12 heavily armed cruisers. Each ship carried advanced plasma weapons and energy shields that could protect them from most attacks. The Korthax had used this same fleet to defeat dozens of other species over the past decade. The alien commander received a signal from his scouts that a lone human vessel had been detected entering the sector. According to their sensors, it was a simple cargo ship with weak shields and no visible weapons. This looked like another easy target for his fleet. Jake noticed the first alien ships appearing on his long-range sensors. He had been expecting them, and was not surprised by their arrival. The Korthax always sent scouts ahead of their main fleet to study potential targets before attacking. Lisa looked up from her station with concern on her face. She could see the alien ships getting closer and wondered if they should call for help. The nearest human military base was too far away to provide assistance if trouble started. Pete came up from the engine room to join them on the bridge. He could tell from the atmosphere that something was happening and wanted to be ready to help if needed. All 3 of them had been through dangerous situations before and knew how to work together as a team. The cargo ship continued on its course without changing speed or direction. To any observer, it would look like the crew had not yet noticed the approaching alien vessels. This was exactly the impression Jake wanted to create. Vextar watched the human ship on his main screen and smiled with satisfaction. The vessel showed no signs of trying to escape or calling for help. This confirmed his belief that humans were too primitive to understand the danger they were in. The alien commander ordered his fleet to move into attack formation around the cargo ship. 12 powerful cruisers began to surround the New Horizon like predators closing in on helpless prey. Their weapons were charging and ready to disable the human vessel. Jake remained calm as he watched the alien ships take their positions. He had studied Korthax tactics and knew exactly what they would do next. The raiders always used the same approach because it had worked so well against other species. Lisa checked her instruments and reported that the alien ships were now in weapons range. She asked Jake if they should try to run, but he told her to wait. Pete stood ready at his station to make emergency repairs if the ship took damage. The communication system activated and a harsh alien voice filled the bridge. Commander Vextar was making his usual demands for immediate surrender. His tone suggested he expected the humans to give up without any resistance. Jake listened to the alien threats and smiled quietly to himself. The Korthax commander had no idea what kind of mistake he was making. The cargo ship that looked so helpless was actually something very different. The New Horizon had been specially modified by human military engineers. Hidden beneath its ordinary appearance were weapons and defensive systems that no alien had ever seen before. The ship was part of a secret program designed to hunt the hunters. Human intelligence agencies had been tracking the Korthax for months and learning their methods. Every attack had been studied and analyzed to find weaknesses in their tactics. The time had come to turn the tables on these alien slavers. Jake opened a communication channel to respond to the alien demands. His voice was steady and showed no fear, as he spoke to the commander who thought he held all the advantages. The real battle was about to begin, and the aliens had no idea what they were facing. The stage was set for a confrontation that would change everything the Korthax thought they knew about humanity. Their intelligence about weak and primitive humans was about to be proven completely wrong in the most dramatic way possible. The 12 Korthax warships formed a perfect circle around the human cargo vessel. Each alien cruiser was 3 times larger than the New Horizon and bristled with plasma weapons that glowed with deadly energy. Commander Vextar felt confident as he looked at his tactical display showing the surrounded human ship. The alien fleet had used this same formation hundreds of times before against other species. No vessel had ever escaped once the Korthax hunting circle was complete. The plasma cannons could disable any ship's engines without destroying the valuable cargo inside. Vextar activated his communication system to make contact with the human crew. He expected to hear the usual pleading and begging that came from terrified victims. Most species immediately offered to surrender when they saw the overwhelming firepower aimed at them. The alien commander's voice filled the bridge of the New Horizon as he delivered his standard threats. His words were translated by the ship's computer into human language. The message was always the same, regardless of which species he was addressing. Jake Morrison listened to the alien demands with a calm expression on his face. He had heard recordings of these same threats from the surviving victims of previous Korthax attacks. The commander's arrogance was exactly what he had expected based on intelligence reports. Lisa Wong monitored the alien ships on her sensors and noted their exact positions. Each enemy vessel was now locked in place according to their tactical doctrine. This made them predictable and gave the human crew certain advantages they could exploit. Pete Johnson remained at his station, but his hands were already moving to activate hidden systems throughout the ship. The cargo vessel's true nature was about to be revealed, but only when Jake gave the signal to begin. Commander Vextar finished his demands and waited for the expected surrender from the primitive human crew. Instead, he heard a calm voice responding in perfect Korthax language. The human captain was speaking without any fear or concern about the overwhelming odds against him. Jake's response surprised the entire alien bridge crew. No victim had ever spoken so confidently when surrounded by their fleet. The human claimed to be a captain in something called the Terran Space Navy, which made no sense according to their intelligence reports. The alien commander laughed at what he thought was an obvious lie. His scouts had confirmed that humans had no real military and certainly no space navy capable of challenging the Korthax. This was probably just desperate bluffing from a terrified cargo ship captain. Vextar decided to teach these humans a lesson about who controlled this sector of space. He ordered his weapons officers to prepare warning shots that would disable the human vessel's engines. This would prove that resistance was useless against superior Korthax technology. Jake continued speaking to the alien commander in the same calm tone. He gave them 30 seconds to withdraw from human space or face the consequences. This demand seemed completely insane coming from a lone cargo ship facing 12 warships. The alien bridge erupted in confused chatter as the crew tried to understand what they were hearing. No species had ever made demands of the Korthax while surrounded and outgunned. The human captain seemed to genuinely believe he held some kind of advantage. Lisa checked her instrument readings and confirmed that all the hidden systems were coming online. The ship's computer was automatically targeting each alien vessel and calculating the best attack patterns. Everything was ready for Jake's command. Pete monitored the power levels throughout the ship as massive generators came to life. The energy requirements for their hidden weapons were enormous, but the modified cargo vessel had been designed to handle the load. All systems showed green status lights. Vextar grew tired of listening to the humans' ridiculous demands. He decided to end this conversation by crippling their ship and taking the crew prisoner. The cargo hold probably contained valuable supplies that could be sold along with the humans themselves. The alien commander gave the order to fire warning shots at the human vessel's engines. Plasma cannons from 6 different ships discharged their deadly energy beams toward the new horizon. The coordinated attack should have left the cargo ship helpless and drifting. Instead, something impossible happened that shocked every alien on every ship. The plasma beams struck an invisible barrier around the human vessel and simply disappeared. The deadly energy that should have crippled their target had no effect at all. Jake watched the alien weapon's fire bounce harmlessly off his ship's shields. The defensive system had been developed specifically to counter plasma-based attacks after studying captured Korthax technology. The aliens had just revealed that their intelligence was completely wrong. The shield generators hidden throughout the cargo ship's hull absorbed the plasma energy and converted it into power for other systems. This meant that every attack actually made the human vessel stronger rather than weaker. Commander Vextar stared at his tactical display in complete disbelief. His sensors showed that the human ship had taken direct hits from multiple plasma cannons, but suffered no damage at all. This was supposed to be impossible with primitive human technology. The alien crew began talking frantically among themselves as they tried to understand what they had witnessed. Their most powerful weapons had been completely useless against what looked like a simple cargo vessel. Nothing in their experience had prepared them for this situation. Jake opened his communication channel again and spoke directly to the confused alien commander. His voice remained calm, but now carried a subtle threat that had not been there before. The 30-second deadline he had mentioned was almost over. Lisa began bringing additional systems online as the ship prepared to reveal its true capabilities. Weapon ports that had been hidden beneath false hull plating began to open. The cargo bays started reconfiguring themselves into launch tubes for missiles and other projectiles. Pete monitored the transformation as the new horizon changed from a harmless freighter into something completely different. Armor platings slid into position to protect vital systems. Advanced targeting computers came online and began tracking all 12 alien vessels. The Korthax ships detected the energy signatures of unknown systems activating throughout the human vessel. Their sensors had never encountered anything like the technology readings they were now receiving from what should have been a primitive cargo ship. Vextar realized that something was seriously wrong with his intelligence about human capabilities. The vessel in front of him was clearly not the helpless merchant ship it appeared to be. His confident attitude began to change as doubt crept into his thoughts. Jake's final warning echoed across the communication channels as the countdown reached 0. The Korthax had chosen to attack rather than withdraw. Now they would learn what it meant to threaten human civilians and take human prisoners as slaves. The real battle was about to begin, and the aliens were completely unprepared for what they were going to face. Their overwhelming advantage had just become a deadly trap, with no escape. The 30-second countdown reached 0, and Jake Morrison spoke 2 simple words that would change everything. His calm voice carried across the communication channels to every alien ship as he said, "Time's up," and the new horizon transformed, from prey into predator in the span of a heartbeat. Hidden weapon ports all along the cargo ship's hull suddenly opened with mechanical precision. What had appeared to be ordinary cargo bay doors revealed themselves as launch tubes for weapons the Korthax had never seen before. The transformation was so rapid that the alien sensors barely had time to register what was happening. Advanced railgun turrets emerged from concealed positions and immediately began tracking the 12 enemy vessels. These kinetic weapons used magnetic acceleration to fire solid projectiles at tremendous velocities. The concept was completely foreign to the Korthax, who relied entirely on energy-based plasma weapons. Commander Vextar watched in growing horror as his tactical display showed the human ship bristling with unknown weapons. His intelligence officers, had assured him that humans possessed only primitive technology, but the readings on his screen suggested capabilities far beyond anything they had encountered. The first salvo from the New Horizons railguns caught 3 Korthax cruisers completely by surprise. The solid projectiles moved so fast they were virtually invisible until they struck their targets. The kinetic impact punched through the alien shields like they were made of paper. Energy shields were designed to deflect or absorb plasma beams and laser weapons. They had never been tested against high-velocity solid projectiles that carried enormous kinetic energy. The physics of the impact overwhelmed the shield generators and caused catastrophic damage to the alien vessels. Lisa Wang coordinated the targeting systems from her station as the ship's advanced computers tracked all 12 enemy vessels simultaneously. The Korthax ships were trying to break formation and escape, but their movements were predictable based on their tactical doctrine that humans had studied extensively. Pete Johnson monitored the weapon systems as the railguns recharged for the next salvo. The magnetic accelerators required enormous amounts of power, but the ship's modified generators could sustain continuous fire for extended periods. Every shot was precisely calculated for maximum effectiveness. The 3 damaged Korthax cruisers began spinning out of control as their propulsion systems failed. Emergency alarms filled their bridges as crews struggled to understand what had hit them. Their damage control systems had no protocols for dealing with kinetic weapons. Vextar screamed orders at his remaining ships to return fire with everything they had. 9 cruisers unleashed a massive barrage of plasma weapons at the human vessel. The coordinated attack represented enough firepower to destroy an entire fleet of conventional ships. The plasma beams struck the New Horizons' shields and were absorbed just as completely as the earlier warning shots had been. The human defensive systems had been specifically designed to counter Korthax weapons technology. Every attack only made the cargo ship's power systems stronger. Jake opened a communication channel to the alien fleet and delivered his final ultimatum. His voice remained calm despite the intense battle raging around his ship. He offered the Korthax one last chance to surrender before facing complete destruction. The alien commander's response was filled with rage and disbelief. Vextar could not accept that his superior technology was being defeated by what he still thought of as a primitive species. His pride would not allow him to consider surrender to humans. 3 more Korthax cruisers attempted to flee from the battle, but the New Horizons' engines were far more advanced than they appeared. The cargo ship easily kept pace with the retreating aliens while continuing to fire its devastating kinetic weapons. The railgun projectiles struck the fleeing ships with surgical precision. Each shot was aimed at specific systems to disable, rather than destroy the alien vessels. The human crew wanted prisoners who could provide intelligence about Korthax operations throughout the sector. Lisa tracked the movements of every enemy ship on her display screens. The Korthax were attempting evasive maneuvers, but their ships were too large and slow to avoid the precisely aimed kinetic weapons. Each alien vessel that tried to escape only made itself an easier target. Pete reported that all weapon systems were performing perfectly within design parameters. The railguns had been tested extensively, but this was their first use in actual combat conditions. The results exceeded all expectations, as alien ship after ship was disabled by the kinetic impacts. Commander Vextar realized that his fleet was being systematically destroyed by a single human vessel. Half of his ships were already disabled, and the others were scattered and trying desperately to escape. His reputation as an invincible raider was being shattered along with his fleet. The alien commander finally understood that this had never been a random encounter with a helpless cargo ship. The humans had deliberately placed this vessel in Korthax territory as bait to draw out the raiding fleet. Everything about the situation had been carefully planned. Jake confirmed Vextar's suspicions as he explained how human intelligence had tracked the Korthax for months. Every raid and every captured ship had provided valuable information about alien tactics and technology. The New Horizon represented humanity's response to the slave raids. The battle continued as more alien ships found themselves overwhelmed by weapons they could not defend against. The Korthax plasma cannons were useless against the human shields, while the railguns cut through alien defenses with devastating effectiveness. Lisa reported that 6 enemy vessels were now completely disabled and drifting in space. 3 more were attempting to retreat, but were taking damage from long-range kinetic strikes. Only 3 Korthax ships remained in fighting condition, and they were scattered across the battle zone. Pete monitored the power systems as the railguns continued, firing with mechanical precision. The weapon systems could maintain this rate of fire for hours if necessary. The alien fleet would be completely destroyed or captured long before the human ship ran out of ammunition. Vextar found himself trapped aboard his flagship as it took hit after hit from the relentless kinetic weapons. His shields were failing, and his crew was reporting system failures throughout the ship. The mighty Korthax fleet was being defeated by a single human vessel. The alien commander finally began to understand the true scope of his mistake. He had not encountered weak, primitive humans, but rather a carefully planned military operation. The cargo ship was obviously part of a larger human fleet that had been hunting the Korthax. Jake offered the aliens one final chance to surrender before the last of their ships were destroyed. His message was broadcast to every surviving Korthax vessel, making it clear that further resistance would only result in more casualties. The trap had been perfectly executed, and the alien raiders found themselves completely outmatched by human technology and tactics. Their reputation for invincibility was being destroyed along with their fleet in this remote sector of space. Commander Vextar's flagship shuddered under another devastating impact from the human railguns. Sparks flew from damaged control panels as his crew struggled to keep essential systems online. The mighty Korthax warship that had terrorized dozens of species was now helpless against a single human vessel. The alien commander finally accepted that his fleet was defeated, but he still could not understand how this was possible. His intelligence network had studied human colonies for months and found only primitive farmers and miners with basic technology. Nothing in their reports had suggested humans possessed advanced military capabilities. Jake Morrison's voice came through the communication system with the same calm tone he had maintained throughout the battle. The human captain seemed completely unfazed by the destruction his ship had caused. His confidence suggested this outcome had never been in doubt. The revelation that shocked Vextar most was learning that the humans they had been raiding were not warriors at all. Jake explained that the Korthax had only encountered civilian populations on frontier worlds. The real human military had remained hidden while studying their enemies. Lisa Wang brought up tactical displays showing the full scope of human operations throughout the sector. Admiral Ross and 17 other human fleets were moving to intercept Korthax strongholds across multiple star systems. This single battle was just one small part of a massive coordinated response. The alien commander realized that every raid his people had conducted had provided valuable intelligence to human military analysts. Ship movements, weapon capabilities, tactical formations, and communication frequencies had all been carefully recorded and studied. Pete Johnson reported that the new kinetic weapons were performing exactly as the engineers had designed them. The railgun technology represented years of research and development specifically aimed at countering plasma-based alien technology. Every component had been tested and refined. Vextar demanded to know how humans had advanced so quickly from primitive colonists to advanced military forces. The timeline seemed impossible based on what his scouts had observed during previous raids. Something was clearly wrong with their understanding of human civilization. Jake's explanation revealed the fundamental mistake the Korthax had made in judging humanity. The aliens had assumed that frontier colonies represented the full extent of human capability. They had never encountered the established worlds where advanced technology and military forces were concentrated. The human captain described how news of the first Korthax raids had reached the core worlds and triggered an immediate response. Human military leaders had declared the alien slavers a threat to the entire species and authorized unlimited resources to eliminate them. Lisa monitored communications from other human fleets as they engaged Korthax forces throughout the region. The aliens were being systematically defeated wherever they encountered human military vessels. Their technological advantages had proven to be illusions. The truth about human society began to emerge as Jake continued explaining their response to the alien threat. Humans were not a single unified government, but rather a collection of independent worlds that rarely cooperated. The Korthax raids had accomplished something remarkable by uniting them against a common enemy. Pete accessed intelligence files that showed how human scientists had reverse-engineered captured Korthax technology. Every weapon, shield system, and piece of equipment had been analyzed and improved upon. The aliens had unknowingly provided blueprints for their own defeat. Vextar learned that humans possessed something the Korthax had never encountered in other species. When faced with a superior enemy, humans did not simply surrender or flee. Instead, they studied their opponents, learned from every encounter, and developed new methods to turn weakness into strength. The alien commander's ship took another hit that disabled his primary weapons systems. Around him, his crew worked frantically to repair damage they had never seen before. The kinetic weapons created completely different types of destruction than the energy weapons they were familiar with. Jake revealed that the cargo ship New Horizon was just one of dozens of similar vessels. The human military had created an entire fleet of disguised warships designed to hunt alien raiders. Each ship appeared to be a helpless freighter while hiding devastating military capabilities. The systematic nature of the human response became clear as more intelligence was shared. Every Korthax base, supply depot, and slave market had been identified and marked for destruction. Human agents had infiltrated alien criminal networks to gather information. Lisa reported that rescue operations were already underway at locations where human prisoners were being held. Specialized teams trained for hostage situations were liberating the colonists who had been captured during previous raids. The Korthax slave trade was being dismantled completely. Vextar realized that his people had not simply attacked human ships, but had declared war on an entire species. The response was not random retaliation, but a carefully planned military campaign designed to eliminate the Korthax threat permanently. Pete showed damage assessments from the battle that demonstrated the superiority of kinetic weapons over plasma technology. The railguns could penetrate any known shield system while remaining completely immune to energy-based defenses. This represented a fundamental shift in military technology. The alien commander understood that this defeat would have consequences, far beyond his own fleet. Word would spread throughout the galaxy about human military capabilities and their willingness to hunt down anyone who threatened their people. The Korthax reputation for invincibility was permanently destroyed. Jake offered terms for surrender that included complete withdrawal from human space and cessation of all slaving operations. The alternative was systematic destruction of every Korthax facility and warship throughout the region. The choice was simple, but the consequences were enormous. The human captain made it clear that this was not a negotiation between equals. The Korthax had started a war they could not win and now faced the consequences of their actions. Humanity had proven they could adapt to any challenge and overcome any threat. Lisa received reports that other alien species throughout the sector were watching the battle's outcome carefully. Many had suffered under Korthax raids, but had been too weak to resist. The human victory was giving them hope that the slavers could be defeated. Pete monitored the continuing bombardment of disabled alien ships as the railguns maintained their devastating accuracy. Each shot was precisely aimed to destroy weapons and propulsion systems while leaving life support intact. The humans wanted prisoners, not corpses. Vextar faced the complete collapse of everything he had believed about his own superiority and human weakness. The species he had dismissed as primitive prey had revealed themselves as apex predators. The hunters had become the hunted, and there was no escape. 3 hours after the battle began, the last Korthax ship powered down its weapons and transmitted a surrender signal. The mighty alien fleet that had terrorized the sector for years now drifted helplessly in space around the human cargo vessel. Every ship was disabled but intact, with their crews alive to face justice. Commander Vextar sat in the detention cell aboard his own former flagship. The irony was not lost on him that he was now a prisoner on the same ship where he had planned to process human slaves. Jake Morrison sat across from him in what had once been the alien's private command chamber. The human captain's calm demeanor had not changed, despite the overwhelming victory his people had achieved. He spoke to the defeated alien commander with the same measured tone he had used throughout the battle. There was no gloating or celebration, just professional efficiency. Lisa Wang coordinated with human fleets throughout the sector as rescue. Operations proceeded at captured facilities. 17 different task forces were liberating prison worlds and slave markets where thousands of humans and other species had been held. The scale of the Korthax criminal empire was finally being revealed. Pete Johnson supervised the technical teams that were examining captured alien technology. Every system was being analyzed and documented to understand how the Korthax had maintained their advantages for so long. The information would be shared with other species who had suffered under alien raids. The interrogation of captured Korthax officers revealed the true scope of their operations. They had been raiding shipping lanes for over 2 decades and had enslaved millions of beings from dozens of different species. Their network extended across multiple star systems with bases hidden throughout unexplored regions. Vextar finally asked the question that had been troubling him since his defeat. He wanted to know how the humans had managed to coordinate such an effective response in such a short time. The speed and efficiency of their military operation seemed impossible for a newly discovered species. Jake's answer revealed one of humanity's greatest strengths, that the aliens had completely failed to understand. When humans faced a threat to their survival, they could organize and cooperate on a scale that other species found incomprehensible. The Korthax raids had united worlds that had been independent for centuries. The human captain explained how communication networks had carried news of the first attacks across human space within days. Colony worlds that had never worked together before began sharing resources and information to combat the common threat. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Lisa received reports from Admiral Ross confirming that all major Korthax installations had been captured or destroyed. The alien criminal organization that had seemed so powerful just hours before was now completely dismantled. Their weapons, ships, and bases were all in human hands. The rescued prisoners were providing testimony about conditions in Korthax facilities and the treatment they had received. The evidence would be used in trials that would determine the fate of captured raiders. Some aliens might face execution, while others could be sentenced to labor repairing the damage they had caused. Pete analyzed the performance data from the railgun systems and confirmed that kinetic weapons were superior to plasma technology in almost every situation. The information would be shared with human allies and could revolutionize military tactics throughout the galaxy. Vextar learned that every species the Korthax had ever raided was now aware of the alien defeat. News of the human victory was spreading rapidly through trading networks and diplomatic channels. The reputation that had protected Korthax operations for decades was permanently destroyed. The alien commander realized that his people's way of life was finished. They had built their entire civilization on conquest and slavery. Without the ability to raid other species, they would have to find completely new ways to survive and organize their society. Jake offered the defeated aliens a choice between 2 very different futures. They could accept human oversight while rebuilding their civilization along peaceful lines, or they could face systematic extermination as an ongoing threat to galactic security. The decision would determine whether the Korthax survived as a species. The human captain made it clear that humanity was not interested in conquest or empire building. They wanted only to eliminate the threat to their people and ensure that the Korthax could never resume their raiding operations. Peace was possible, but only under strict conditions. Lisa coordinated with civilian authorities who were preparing to process thousands of rescued prisoners. Medical teams, counselors, and transportation specialists were all mobilizing to help the victims of Korthax slavery return to their home worlds. The logistics were enormous, but manageable. The battle in the Nebula sector had ended, but its consequences would reshape the political landscape of the galaxy. Species that had lived in fear of alien raiders now understood that resistance was possible. The balance of power had shifted dramatically in favor of peaceful civilizations. Pete received technical specifications for new ship designs based on lessons learned from the engagement. The success of disguised warships would lead to an entire fleet of vessels that appeared harmless while hiding devastating capabilities. No enemy would ever again be able to identify human military assets by appearance alone. Vextar faced the reality that he would spend the rest of his life in human custody. His crimes were too severe for any possibility of parole or redemption. The alien commander, who had once terrorized entire star systems, would die as a prisoner of the species he had underestimated. The New Horizon resumed its original course toward the outer colonies, but its mission was now different. Instead of carrying medical supplies as bait for alien raiders, the ship transported evidence of human military capabilities throughout the galaxy. The message was clear and unmistakable. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching the stars as his ship moved through space that was now safe for human travel. The Korthax threat was eliminated, and other potential enemies would think carefully before challenging humanity. The cargo vessel had completed its mission perfectly. The lone human ship had appeared to be easy prey for alien hunters, but had proven to be the bait in a trap that destroyed an entire criminal empire. The Korthax had made a fatal mistake by targeting humanity and learned too late that humans were not victims, but apex predators who protected their own with devastating efficiency.